Hey, before we jump into the show, I have a huge announcement. For the first time ever, Carlos and I are hosting a totally free live one-day event called the Brand Growth Accelerator Workshop. This event is for anyone who has an active Shopify store, but they're struggling to make sales or take their brand to the next level. If you're newer to POD, this will give you a clear path to sales. And if you're a POD veteran, this is meant to help you multiply your growth. It is a 4-hour interactive event consisting of training, strategy, and personal coaching from Carlos and I through live website reviews and hot seat coaching, all with the intention of equipping you to hit your 2025 business goals. So if you are a positive, growth-minded business owner who believes that success is possible for you and you're willing to put in the work to accelerate your progress, I would love to see you there. The event is happening on Wednesday, March 26th from 12 to 4 p.m. Eastern Time. To attend, you'll just need to complete a brief application, which you can do by going to ecomlegendsacademy.com/workshop or clicking the link in the description. Now, let's jump into the episode. With over 765,000 Instagram followers and a highly engaged community, this episode is a masterclass for how to grow on Instagram in 2025 and beyond. Our guest is a podcaster, speaker, and one of the biggest names in the Instagram growth space, with his average engaged student growing by 16,000 followers in the last year. I am so excited to welcome him onto the show to discuss all things Instagram growth and how you can leverage this free marketing platform to attract your target audience, build your brand, and unlock more freedom in your life. I'm Adrian Von Arx, here with my friend and guest, Brock Johnson. Welcome to the Print on Demand Playbook podcast. What is up, guys? Welcome to the show. I am absolutely pumped for this episode because I am going to be bringing you one of the biggest authority figures when it comes to Instagram growth. I'm not calling him a guru because I know he doesn't like that term. I don't like that term either, but he is one of the biggest authorities when it comes to Instagram growth. He has personally coached so many people. His average engaged student has grown by 16,000 followers in the last year. He's his own CEO, his own boss. He's a podcaster with not one, but 2 podcasts. He's a public speaker. This guy does it all. He has 765,000 Instagram followers, and somehow he has a crazy balanced life. Brock Johnson, I don't even feel like I needed to introduce you because so many people already know who you are, but welcome to the show.
No, well, you're way too kind, and all those fancy things that you put in a bio always make me sound way cooler than I am. But I really appreciate it. I appreciate the kind words. And Adrian, I am excited to be here today. You are such a kind human being, such a light, and I always enjoy when we get to talk. So I'm excited for this conversation today.
Thank you, my friend. The feeling is mutual. Brock had me on one of his podcasts very recently, the Social Media Moneymakers podcast. We had an amazing conversation. I'll actually link that in the show notes as well. Awesome. But let's start out by introducing you. So I know from looking on Instagram that a lot of my followers, they follow you. And a lot of people I follow you. You've actually been a mentor to me. And I am so proud to be part of one of your paid communities, the Insta Club Hub. I've learned so much from there. It's one of the absolute best places to learn Instagram growth strategies in a really kind of easy, simple to follow and understand way. But Brock, tell our listeners about yourself, kind of how you got into Instagram growth and what you're doing now.
Yeah, well, thank you so much again for all the kind words. The quick version of my story of how I got here today is when I was a freshman in college, I wanted to start my own business because I wanted to provide for myself financially. I wanted to stop asking mommy and daddy for money. And at that time, I was a college student athlete. I played college football. And for those people who are unaware, student athletes prior to about 4 or 5 years ago couldn't really make money off their name, image, and likeness. So I couldn't just make money for being a college football player. And because of my schedule, I was having, 5, 6 hours a day of trainings and workouts and meetings and practice, and then another 4 or 5 hours a day of class and actually like going to school. So having a traditional job was just not an option for me. And so at that time, my only real option to provide for myself financially was to start my own business. Unfortunately, I come from a very entrepreneurial family. And so the idea of working for yourself and being your own boss has been present in my life since day one. And so at that time, I knew I needed to start my own business and if I wanted to make money for myself. And I just looked around and said, number one, what am I good at? Like, what unique skill set do I have? What problem have I recently solved? And then number two, of those problems and skill sets and things that I have, which of those does society as a whole need? Or maybe not society as a whole, but what is there a big population that might need that thing? For example, I has done a trick shot basketball YouTube channel. That was a skill set I had, but there wasn't really a need, right? There wasn't a community of people who were dying to learn about how to make basketball trick shot YouTube videos. But another skill that I had recently developed was I taught my parents how to use Snapchat. And I taught them how to use it because I was like, you guys, I'm going to school on the East Coast. My family lived on the West Coast. And I was like, I'm not going to be FaceTiming you all day. I'm not going to be texting you 24/7. Let me just snap you and send you little Snapchats throughout the day. So I taught them how to use Snapchat. And so I recognized I have this skill set. I can teach people who are my parents' age how to use Snapchat. And at that time, all over the news was the dangers of Snapchat and like, what are kids doing? What are these teens up to on Snapchat? That was headline news back when I was a freshman in college. And so, again, I had the skill set. I saw there was a need. And so, hence, my first business, which was really just an online course, was born. I sold it for about $19, and it was essentially teaching parents how to use Snapchat. That's really what was going on inside the course. What it was marketed as and what it was really providing them with was, here's how you keep your kids safe on Snapchat. Here's how you understand what's going on. Here's how you protect your kids online. Well, you need to know how to use Snapchat. So that was how I kind of got started in business. That very quickly transitioned into not just cybersecurity on Snapchat, but growing a business on Snapchat. And I grew my business on Snapchat. And everyone who I taught to use Snapchat, they all started following me. And so all of a sudden, my daily Snapchat story was getting tens of thousands of views. And I understood the marketing principles to market on Snapchat. So I pivoted the course from Snapchat for parents to Snapchat for business. And then a few years later, and this is kind of where the story ends, a few years later, I guess you could say this is also kind of where the story begins, but a few years later, Instagram rolled out Instagram stories, and it was a direct rip off, a direct copy of Snapchat stories. And a bunch of people led by, I think it was like Kylie Jenner, were like, peace out, Snapchat. We're going back to Instagram. Forget you, Snap. We're going to IG and we're going to start posting Instagram stories. And so I went with them and I transferred everything that I learned and everything that I knew about Snapchat stories over to Instagram stories. And that's really the birth of how I became an Instagram coach. It started with a hyper focus on Instagram stories. And since then, it's grown, it's evolved. My own personal following has grown and evolved. And I've been really, really fortunate to get lucky quite a few times and continue to grow my audience and reach new people.
That's an amazing story, and I just had so many questions about this story, but I want to get to the strategy stuff too. But it's really cool because a lot of people, they look at people like you, they look up to people like you, and sometimes they think people like you are overnight successes, you know. And what I've realized in my time as an entrepreneur is not many people are overnight successes at all. I've never been an overnight success. Most successful people I know haven't either. And you've got this long story, like long before Instagram. First of all, you were clearly born with the entrepreneurial spirit. And it probably helped that you had those influences, direct influences in your family. Secondly, you started doing this stuff years before you actually pivoted into Instagram. Mm-hmm. And then you went in all in Instagram, which has clearly worked very, very well for you. But I want to know why Instagram. So why Instagram? Why did you go all in on Instagram? And why do you believe that this is such a powerful marketing platform a couple of years ago in 2025 and beyond?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I first got started, it wasn't like I had this amazing foresight or I did a bunch of market research to figure out what the best platform was. It was very much, like I said, I knew Snapchat stories, and suddenly everyone was leaving Snapchat stories to go to Instagram stories. And so I was like, okay, I'll go with you. And I didn't venture into other platforms. I didn't become a social media marketing coach. I was just an Instagram stories coach, because that was really all I had the time and bandwidth for. I was still a college athlete at this time. And so I still had really limited free time and availability to run this business. And so it was really born out of necessity.
Mm,
But now that I have a few years under my belt and I can kind of look back and talk more broadly about why Instagram, it can really be boiled down to a few things. But in my opinion, Instagram is the best social media platform for building a business. Reason number one, because of the diversity of kinds of content. So if you think about each social media platform, there's like, for the most part, besides Instagram, one kind of post you think of: YouTube, YouTube videos; TikTok, short form vertical videos; podcasts,
mhm.
long form audio; X/Twitter, tweets, those text posts, basically. Facebook, I don't know what your grandparents are posting on Facebook, but Instagram, there's not one specific kind of post. Maybe back in 2014, you might have said photos, but now there's photos, there's carousels, which are the slideshow posts, there's stories, there's live, there's reels. There's so many different ways that you can show up on Instagram that it really can be molded to fit whatever your forte is, whatever you're good at. Case in point, I know you yourself were a guest on Social Media Moneymakers. I interviewed a woman a few months ago who she's a therapist, and almost everything she posts on Instagram are just like quote posts, like motivational, inspirational quotes and messages and reminders, affirmations. So she doesn't have to go on video. She doesn't have to record herself. She doesn't have to dance. She doesn't have to make reels. She could just crank out these quote posts, and she's got like well over 100,000 followers. And so that's the first reason why I think Instagram is the best platform for growing a small business. I also think that the organic reach that is possible on Instagram is really massive, and the barrier to entry is not huge. Setting up for a podcast is not easy. You and I both know this. I don't know if other people listening have podcasts themselves, but podcasting requires a lot of equipment and a lot of tech and a lot of software, and there's a lot that goes into it. It's not as simple as just like sign up with your email and start posting podcasts, like it is to sign up with your email on Instagram and start posting reels. And then also when we think about a platform like YouTube and the barrier to entry there, on average, it takes over 100 videos to get just 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. And a YouTube
Mm,
video has a much higher floor, so to speak, in that people expect much higher production value, right? Like, you're
right.
sure you can film on your phone, but most of the time, most good YouTube videos have lots of editing. They're 20 minutes long. They're filmed on a nice camera. They have good mic, good lighting. It's not necessary, but it's pretty regular and routine at this point. But that's not the case on Instagram. So, and for all of those reasons, I believe that Instagram is the most valuable, the best ROI platform for small business owners.
Yeah, man, I am 100% in agreement. It is my personal favorite acquisition channel to reach your target audience, ideally convert them or bring them over to your email list where you can convert them.
Yep.
And like, I think what a lot of people forget, it is free, unlimited digital real estate. Like, you can go
Yep.
and occupy as much of that real estate as you want. And there's a lot of people in 2025 that are growing very, very fast. A lot of them are following your strategies. So I 100% agree. I also would mention that Instagram Shops has been huge for my business and a lot of my students' businesses as well. Just
Mhm.
integrating that kind of seamless e-commerce element into the platform has been a game changer. And it makes it such a comfortable experience for people because they trust the platform. If they're on there, most likely, and they're going to be more comfortable buying from there. Also, the fact that they get to stay in the platform and complete a
Mhm.
purchase is huge because a lot of people
Yeah.
go on Instagram to be educated, entertained, or inspired, and they don't particularly want to go off of Instagram. So there's Man, I 100% agree that I believe that in 2025, it's the best marketing platform for acquisition, reaching your target audience.
Mhm.
Now, I want to know kind of your strategy around it because you have a talent of teaching Instagram growth in a very easy to understand, easy to digest, kind of bite sized piece strategy. And I'm a big fan of both of your podcasts, and I follow you on Instagram. I consume all of it. And you're really good at this. And so I want to know from you, in terms of this strategy, what would you say are the core pillars for Instagram growth?
Yeah. Well, I appreciate those kind words again. I think that there are so many things you could do. And if you follow myself or any other Instagram coach, you're going to be hit daily with do this, try this, don't do this, avoid this, stay away from this. And it can be very, very overwhelming. And we overwhelm ourselves, especially when we start thinking about something that most people have no idea about, which is the algorithm. Even someone
Right.
like myself who studies the algorithms full time, like that's what I geek out over and obsess over. At the end of the day, I'm guessing. Like I don't actually get to look at the algorithms. I'm not a software engineer who is building these social media algorithms. And so it's very overwhelming, but there's really just three steps to growing on Instagram. There are three foundational principles to how you grow on Instagram. Step number one, you niche down. You know your who, like the target demographic or audience, which I know you talk about, and the what, like that specific thing that you're going to be providing for them. It might not necessarily be a product you're providing for them. It might just be the empathy, like the place where a community, if you will, a place where they can get together. That's what you're providing for them. You might be providing humor or relatability for them, but like, what is that specific thing that you are providing that group with? The who and the what, the niche. That's step one. That's the foundation. We don't move on. When I work with students, we don't move on to posting and reels and all that good stuff until we get the foundation set.
Yeah.
Then we optimize the profile. Again, we overthink social media because it's like the digital world, but who's using the digital world? A bunch of real world humans. And yeah, probably some AI robots, but mostly real world humans. And so, like, if you were to build a business for a real world human, you would want to optimize your storefront, right? You would
Right.
want to have a sign above your store that is easy to read from the street. You would want to have some nice things in the windows for people to quickly look at a glance. You would want to have some things, merchandise, clothing, whatever, in the shop when people walk in so that they can actually look around. Those are the things that are like, well, yeah, duh. But then it gets to Instagram and we're like, oh, what do I need to do to optimize? It's the same ideas. You need to
Mm.
have a username that is easy to read and understand. You need to have a searchable title or keywords on your Instagram so that when people see your business name, they know what it is. I'll give you an example, a real world example. Down the street from my house is this smoothie shop called I Love Moo. And for the first like 7 months after this shop opened, I was like, what the hell is I Love Moo? Like, I can guess I Love Moo is like maybe smoothies and ice cream because it's like moo and there's a cow. But like I get it. It's kind of like a creative, fun name, but no one is going online and searching I Love Moo. And also, no one in the real world is driving by I Love Moo and they're like, oh, yeah, ice cream. So, I Love Moo, if they were smart, they would put like ice cream and milkshakes below I Love Moo. Same thing on Instagram. You can't just be, Google and expect people to know what that is. You have to be the world's largest search engine. So then people can know what your business is actually going to do. We need a profile picture that can be easy to see and easy to understand. We need a bio that people can skim through and immediately know, oh, okay, this is what this person is offering. This is what this business provides. This is the services. This is the product that this company is selling, just at a quick glance. And then you need your 9 to 12 or 15 most recent posts, just the ones up at the top that they are good. They're putting a good foot forward, so to speak. They're
Right.
showing what we can expect from your Instagram account. It's not just some blurry photos of your dog and the date night selfie from Valentine's Day. So that's step two for growing. Again, number one is niche. Number two is optimize the profile, and then number three is where it moves on to actually posting. Now, the strategies that are most effective when it comes to posting, those things do change from time to time as the algorithms change, as things adapt. But generally speaking, what I can tell you is this. Number one, the more you post, the more you grow. That's been true for almost a decade on Instagram. There's a direct correlation between posting frequency and growth rate. So, to say it more plainly, if you're posting once a day and someone else is posting twice a day, the person posting twice a day is probably growing faster than you. Probably, most cases on average. There are exceptions to every rule, but generally speaking, that is true. And then the final thing that I'll say in terms of posting is that the best form of engagement for reaching new people is a share. A few years ago, it was a save. Getting your posts saved was the best way to reach new people. For a while, it was watch time. For a short time, it was likes, comments. Right now, and for the last probably 2 or 3 years, the best way to reach new people is shares. And again, we overcomplicate these algorithms. Just think about human beings. Like, I
Right.
bet you when we're done filming this podcast, I will have like 2 or 3 new posts that have been shared with me from my wife. Like, she's sitting in the living room and she's probably like watching TikTok or Instagram and she's sharing reels with me. Well, guess what? Those reels, those TikToks just doubled their views. They went from 1 viewer, my wife, to 2 viewers, me. And on average, studies indicate that when you get a share, just one share on your posts, the post increases by 150 views or more. Some studies indicate
Dang.
that it's 200 or even up to 400 views from just one single share. So optimizing your posts and creating posts that are intentionally share worthy, that's the
Mm.
real growth hack for 2025. Because when you can get more shares, more real human beings are discovering your content and finding your page.
Man, that right there was a master class. And this is
Thank
what
you.
I love about what you teach. It's easy to understand for a total newbie who has no social media experience, but also people who have been consistent, who have been posting a lot, but maybe they're stagnating or they're not experiencing growth. These three core things. I was taking notes as you're writing them down. I've learned a lot of these strategies from you, and I teach a lot of these strategies to my students from a print on demand t-shirt and apparel lens. But
Mhm.
really the big three you said were niche, optimizing your profile, and then just posting content that ideally evokes emotion and relatability to your target audience. And I really liked what you said, the more you post, the more you grow. A lot of my students who are growing the fastest on Instagram, that is absolutely the case. On average, the fastest growing students are posting about 1 to 2 times a day. And they're not spending hours a day doing this. They're actually, many times, they're batch creating. I know you're a big fan of batch creating
Mhm.
content. Um, and they're just creating really simple, quick and easy kind of short form content like remixing reels, using CapCut templates, all that kind of stuff to create emotion evoking and relatable content for their target audience that goes viral, gets recommended to the algorithm, and then, like you said, gets shared by a lot of people. And as a result, reaches a lot more people. So what would you say? I know you've helped so many people grow. Your average engaged student is getting over 16,000 followers a year. So what would you say in terms of consistency? The more you post, the more you grow. What is the sort of kind of standard consistency that you're seeing across those students?
Yeah, I like to ask people whenever they ask me, how much should I post? Because that's the question that I'm sure a lot of people are asking themselves right now is, okay, Brock, the more you post, the more you grow, but how much should I post? I turn around and I ask them the question, what can you sustain? Because the answer is going to be different for every single business owner because we're all at different stages of life and business availability, resources, capabilities, et cetera, et cetera. And so if you can sustain one a week, that's fine. If you can sustain one a day, that's fine. I don't want you to compare yourself to anyone else. I want you to compare yourself to what your baseline is. Let's start there. What can you sustain? And then the key thing there is let's not just stay where we can sustain. Let's not just stay comfortable, not to get all preachy or anything. I'm not a physiology expert, but I understand that if you want to grow bigger muscles, you have to push your muscles past what they can sustain, right?
Hmm.
Like to failure is what they say in the bodybuilding world. Like you push your muscles to failure, and that's how your muscles grow. I'm not encouraging you to push yourself to failure necessarily. I'm not encouraging you to push yourself to burnout. But what I am encouraging you, just like you were just saying, Adrian, is finding systems, strategies, formulas, techniques to be able to increase your output, basically put more reps in without having to increase your input, without having to spend more hours creating content, without having to spend more time making reels and making posts, being able to post more. And again, growth in life and on social media happens when we push past what we can comfortably sustain. So start
Yeah.
with that baseline frequency, one a day. Okay. And then what if you challenged yourself? So you can do 7 a week right now. What if you challenge yourself to do 8 a week, 9 a week, 10 a week, just a little increase, just some days, a second post. And you found ways to creatively come up with that eighth, ninth, and 10th post so that you weren't having to burn the midnight oil and sacrifice your priorities and what really matters in life. And then over time, a few weeks go by and you're like, wait, suddenly I can sustain 9 a week in the same way that I used to sustain 7. Okay, well, what if we then scaled from 9 to 12 and then from 12 to 15? And then all of a sudden we're at 21 posts a week. We're posting 3 times a day and we're not even thinking about it. Eventually you'll get to that stage. But if I just sat
Yeah.
here and I was like, post 3 times a day, you would stop listening to this podcast right now. Instead, start with what you can sustain and then challenge yourself to do a little bit more.
Yeah, I absolutely love that advice, like especially about pushing out of your comfort zone. I'm a big believer that growth happens outside the comfort zone. And you, I don't think I know anybody on Instagram that has posted more than you. You are hyper consistent. So I have
Thank
two
you.
questions for you because there's some secret sauce that you teach, which I absolutely love, which is upcycling of old
Mm,
content. I love
yes.
that strategy because even though you post so much, like the volume, the consistency, you still have a lot of balance. And so I want to know two things. One, I want to know what your streak is right now for posting every single day. If you know or roughly what it is, and then two, I want you to share your upcycling strategy with our students because it's a game changer when it comes to allowing you to stay consistent, post a decent volume of content, all while not necessarily spending a lot more time on it.
Yeah, well, you definitely get some sort of award for knowing the word upcycle, because something that, and I'm sure you do this yourself. For anyone listening, this is like a little thing that us business owners and teachers and marketers do is we create our own words and acronyms for things that already exist, and that's what upcycling is.
Yeah.
Upcycling is just a fancy word that I use to describe the strategy of reposting or recreating things from the past. Whenever I talk about this, it really opens people's eyes to, oh, that's how you're able to post more. Let's start here. Most people, most of your followers are not seeing what you post. We can all agree on that. Even your best post will probably
Mm.
only reach maybe 10% of your followers. So 90%, 9 out of 10 of your followers will not see that post that you just posted. That's a baseline. Those people, that 10% who did see your post, don't flatter yourself. They don't remember it. They don't remember it the next day. Heck, I don't even remember what I posted this morning. Your followers are not going to remember what you posted a few weeks ago, if not a few months ago, if not a few years ago. The average person sees more than 10,000 social media posts per day. Per day.
Dang.
So by the time a few months go by, we've seen millions upon millions of posts. The only way that someone remembers your post was that it was that good. Like it was that funny. It was that memorable. It was that juicy. It was that emotionally moving that it was that good. And that's why they remember it. And guess what? If those things are true, they probably wouldn't mind seeing it again. So I'm a
Yes.
huge proponent of upcycling. Again, that means either reposting. So I'm going to pause right here. When I say repost, I mean literally taking something that you posted a few months ago and posting it a second time. There is not a repost button on Instagram. So you're going to need to either find it in your camera roll or save it to your camera roll, save it, download it somehow, and then post it a second time. Same caption, same audio, same video, everything the exact same, posted a second time. I do this all the time. The other option is to slightly recycle or refresh your content. So you can take, let's say, an example that I do all the time is let's say I had a video that did well in 2021. Now I live in Utah, but in 2021, I was living where I was born and raised in Southern California. And so my content when I was in Southern California, my office looks very different. My office
Mm,
now, my audience knows they know I have a specific look. I've given them a tour of my office now, and so it would look kind of weird if suddenly I looked like 4 years younger and I was in like a different space. So I'll take that video from a few years ago and I'll just say the exact same words. I'll edit it in the exact same style. It's still essentially the exact same post. It's very minimal additional work for me. It's not a new idea. It's just filmed in a new setting, and I'll post that again. Or maybe I'll take a video from last month and I'll just change out the hook. Or I'll take an idea that I posted literally a week ago and I'll post the same idea today, just in a different format. In fact, just last night, I posted a really long caption, one of those reels that has like, to hundreds of characters in the caption. And then today, my second post of today, the very next day, was that same caption, but just put in a carousel format. So instead of people having to read a long
smart.
caption, they were able to swipe through a carousel. Same idea, same exact words, just in a different format. And not one person called me out on it. Not one person caught that it was the exact same post. And both posts performed well. So when I look at my Instagram account, the exact percentage varies, but usually about 70% of my posts are upcycled content, be it a repost or a refreshed post. And so that's really like my secret sauce to posting more. It's not being a creative genius. I'm not that. It's not having unlimited free time. I don't have that. It's not being super hyper focused. I'm the opposite of that. I'm very, very easily distracted. And so the way I'm able to post so much is really just taking posts from the past and reusing them. You asked for, what is my streak? I started one a day, one reel a day on April 1st, 2024. So we're well over 1,000 days. I think we're over 1,400 days or something like that. I was looking for a screenshot of my account from that day to see if I could find how many posts I had made on that day. I can't quite find it, but I know today, at least the day that we're speaking, I have posted almost 3,600 posts, so probably 2,000 posts or 3,000 posts in the last 3 years or 4 years. So
Dang.
again, my average is usually about 2 or 3 a day, but my current average over the last few months is like 3 or 4 a day.
Man, yeah. So much to unpack there. So you said that you started in April. You said 2024, but I think you maybe meant like
Oh,
2022 or
you're right.
2021.
2021. Yeah,
Okay,
2021 was
okay.
when I started. Yeah, thank you for that.
Okay. Yeah, no worries. I was doing the math. I'm like, okay, 1,000 times, a
Yeah, yeah.
1,000 days. That is hyper consistency, and that is just such a core component to growth. Like you said, the more you post, the more you grow. You've been hyper consistent for years, so this isn't necessarily something that just happened overnight. You've been out there delivering value consistently across the board, and one of my favorite things about it is that this upcycling strategy that you use, which has been able to save you so much time while keeping you super consistent. And kind of, I'm guessing you look at your past most viral content and then think, how can I repost, recreate, reimagine this post? Is that kind of what you do for the content that you upcycle?
Essentially, yes. And I also try to balance, what KPI, what key performance indicator, what stat really performed well for this post. So I don't just look
Mm,
at what are my most viewed posts and let's repost those, but I also mix in, hey, what are my most saved posts? Maybe this post
mm,
didn't go viral, it didn't get a bunch of views, but it got a lot of saves. Well, that's an indication to me that this post is very valuable. That people really learned something and uh, appreciated this post. So I will post that one again, understanding that it might not get a ton of likes or views or shares, but it serves a different purpose. And so I like to balance and add in a variety of all those different kinds of posts. And then something that I've been encouraging people recently, and I've been trying to remind myself of this too, is if you had a post from a few months ago that you were sure was going to do well and it just didn't perform for some reason, you're like, hey, every time I talk about this specific topic, it does well. Every time I do videos in this style, it does well. And I checked off all those boxes, but it just didn't do well. well, post it again. You never know.
Mhm.
Like maybe there was something going on in the world. Maybe Instagram crashed. Maybe there was a glitch. Maybe there was something else going on. Maybe you had a post going viral at that time and it like interrupted the distribution of this post. You don't know. And so if
Right.
it's a post that you're proud of, post it again, because you never know if the second, third, fourth time is going to be the time is finally going to be right for your
Sure.
audience.
Yeah, no, I absolutely love that kind of pro tip there. And I also love how you mentioned taking the same idea or even the exact same content and then just
Mhm.
sharing it in different post types. So, if you have something that really resonates with your target audience, try that in a carousel, try that in a talking head video, try that in just a video with text overlay, something like that. And I feel like that could work for that too. If you're like, oh, I tried this as a carousel and it flopped, but I really think that this would resonate with my target audience. Try it as a reel, try it as a talking head, or just try it as a post with text overlay, something like that, right?
Yep.
So many good strategies here. All right,
Yeah.
I want to kind of shift gears here because I want to be respectful of your time. I really appreciate you being here, but I really want to talk a little bit about kind of Instagram growth strategies that you see working right now, because that's one reason I love following you and being part of your community is you're always giving kind of that what's working today, because we know that a lot of what worked in the last couple of years don't work anymore. They're just not effective strategies. The strategies do change over time. There's kind of like those evergreen strategies like niching down and
Mhm.
creating content that evokes emotion, relatability with your target audience that are always going to be effective. But then there's also always strategies changing in ways that people can see kind of these growth spurts along their
Mhm.
path. I feel like, and you're really good at teaching those. So I would love for you to share a couple things that you see working right now in terms of Instagram growth.
Yeah, you really hit the nail on the head with, there are some evergreen strategies and some hot sauce strategies that are here today and maybe they're going to be gone in a few months. And one of those right now that is really effective for people is trial reels, which is a new feature that was added to Instagram in December. Everyone should have access to it, but I put should in asterisks because not everyone does have access to it. Unfortunately, Instagram is quite glitchy. And even myself, I had it for about 2.5 months. The other day, I opened up Instagram and my option for trial reels has disappeared. So if you don't have it, I'm in the same boat with you, and just stay patient. Hopefully, your account gets it or it comes back to your account sometime soon. But essentially, trial reels, I'll describe what they were made for by Instagram and then what we're going to use them for as business owners. What they were made for is a way to test out your posts by showing them to non followers. So, like we talked about earlier with low pressure environments, Instagram thought they were creating a low pressure environment for us. You could post your reel as a trial reel and see how it performs. And you can say, oh, hey, this actually performed really well with this group of people who don't know me, this group of strangers. So, I'm going to choose to show it to my followers. Or maybe, hey, this actually didn't perform very well. Maybe this idea wasn't as funny as I thought. So, I'm not going to actually share it with the public. But what us marketers very quickly figured out was that this is free advertising. This is a kind of post that is guaranteed to reach non followers. Basically, you could post as many trial reels as you want every single day. It would not overwhelm your followers. It would not affect the people who are already following you. It would not affect your algorithm. It would not affect any of the posts that you're actually making. It would just be unlimited at bats, so to speak, to reach non followers. And so I often talk about this, and people will say, yeah, I tried trial reels and I only got a couple hundred views, or I only got a couple thousand views. And I say, are you kidding me? You can, whenever you want, dozens of times, hundreds of times a day, if you wanted to, reach hundreds, if not thousands, of new potential followers, new potential customers or leads. That's a gold mine. So
Mm.
maybe that's why Instagram took away my trial reels option. Maybe that's why a lot of people have been losing access. Maybe they're changing things. Maybe this is already a strategy that's not going to be effective. But at least at the time that I'm saying this, all signs indicate that you can post as many trial reels as you want per day, and all of them will reach exclusively non-followers. So what I've been recommending for people is to take everything that you post and also post it as a trial reel. Unless it's the type of reel that like would not make sense to someone unless they were an existing follower, unless it's like that specific of a post, But any other kind of post, especially your best posts from the past, your most viral posts from the past, your best performing sales posts from the past, post them again as trial reels, and you never know when one is going to take off. I will be very
Yeah.
candid and say most of mine have a few hundred or a few thousand views. But then every once in a while, one of them pops off and gets tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of views. And again, that's free advertising for the cost of almost nothing because you've already done the work to create the content. So you might as well not just share it to your followers, but also share it to a group of non-followers.
Yeah, that is so powerful. And I actually have a quick story to share because I learned this from you. And then I took this over to my private community, T-Shirt Legends Academy, and we do regular challenges. And after learning this from you, I went over to my community and I said, okay, we're doing a challenge right now. Everyone to find one of their past most viral pieces of content and post as a trial reel and try to do as much as you can of it. One of our students did this. He got 500 new followers from the last time I talked to him. He got 500 new followers from one single post. He said he couldn't even keep
Wow.
up. Like he likes to actually message all the people that follow him and he couldn't even keep up because he was
Wow.
getting so many new followers. And that was just using that one strategy. So yeah, this is what I love about what you teach. You know, you teach the evergreen stuff, plus you teach what's working now so people can have growth spurts through their journey. And I feel like that's how a lot of people grow on Instagram. It's, you know, they don't spike overnight and all of a sudden they go from 0 to 1 million followers. And a lot of times they just don't grow at the same rate every single month forever. A lot of times they'll see spikes in
Yes.
areas when they use strategies like that. And that can lead to huge jumps in their following.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing that strategy because now I have students who are benefiting from it. It's incredible.
I love that.
But I love that tip. I love that tip. Are there any
Thank
other
you.
kind of quick tips that you see working right now, like non-evergreen tips that you see working right now for growth?
Yeah, I think this one it's probably in the evergreen category, but it's in the new category as well. And so there's this stat that Instagram recently added to Reels. So when you look at your Reels insights, the stats kind of got like a long name, but it is, I'll read it for you. It is view rate past first 3 seconds. View
Mm,
rate past first 3 seconds. And so what this stat is basically telling you is what percentage of your viewers were still watching after that 3 second mark, or what percentage of your viewers made it to that 3 second mark. Why does the 3 second mark matter? Because that's usually how long it takes for someone to decide if they're hooked and they're going to keep watching your video or if not. If someone makes it past 3 seconds, the likelihood that they make it to 10 seconds and 30 seconds really increases. If they can't even make it to 3 seconds, obviously they're not going to make it to 10. And so basically, it's a way to look at your posts and look at the most important part of your post, which is the hook, and ask yourself, or I should say, answer the question for yourself, was this a good hook or not? And so something that I've been doing recently with all of my reels is looking at that specific statistic, and it will show you what your average is. So maybe on average, 40% of your viewers make it to the 3 second mark. Maybe on average, 67% of your viewers make it that far. And you can compare your post, that specific one, to your average and say, okay, hey, on average, more people were watching on the 3 second mark for this reel than past reels. Okay, so this hook was a good one. This hook was a strong hook. What are the elements of this hook that made it so engaging and made people want to keep watching? Or maybe it was the opposite. Maybe it was less people than average were watching at the 3 second mark. So it was a bad hook. Okay, what did I
right.
do? Did I pause? Was there a word that was confusing or went over people's heads? Was there some sort of sound effect or music that was wrong? Was there something in the text that was just not as engaging or relatable as it could have been? And so you can look at your posts and really analyze them with much more of a minute magnifying glass than you have been able to in the past. And I think that's going to be a game changer for people because then
Yeah.
you can make these minor changes that make a big difference to your content.
Huge, huge. I'm a big fan of making database decisions. And I truly believe I heard from another one of my mentors, intuition is great, but data always wins. And
Mm.
it's so cool when you can look back and actually get that data to validate the performance of your content and then start reverse engineering it. Like you said, what was the hook? How long was it? Was there trending audio? Like what did I say? What was I doing? What was the environment? Was I holding something? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's so many ways you can kind of reverse engineer this. And, success leaves clues. Take those clues from your most successful content to iterate that moving forward and create more like it. I absolutely love that. So as we kind of land the plane here, I know that, like, Instagram more than probably anybody I personally know. And you've even, correct me if I'm wrong, you've consulted with Instagram, and I believe like you and the CEO of Instagram have even like DM'd or chatted before, or something like that. I saw one of your recent posts about this. Can you talk a little bit about that? The reason being is because I just want to know like a little bit about that, but also I feel like with the knowledge that you have and how long you've been at this, like you're going to be one of the people I'm going to go to ask for what you're predicting the future of Instagram to look like and what you're most excited for. So first of all, I need to know the relationship with Instagram. And then secondly, where do you see Instagram going in the future and what are you most excited for?
Yeah, absolutely. So the relationship with Instagram CEO Adam Mosseri is very new. It's very exciting. He's liked a few of my posts before. He's commented on a few. We've gone back and forth a few times on Instagram comments and on threads. But this is, to anyone listening, an encouragement to shoot your shot, ask the question,
Yes.
send the message, reach out to whoever you want to reach out to. I posted a thread, I think it was back in October of 2024, and basically said, and this was true, I had a dream that I followed him around the Instagram headquarters and basically picked his brain, asked him questions, and learned all about Instagram directly from the horse's mouth, so to speak. And I posted that on Threads, and I got in contact with. He replied, and he was like, "What do you want to know?" And I was like,
That's
"Oh my god!"
insane.
And then later that day, his team got in contact with me, and we've been in discussions, and now we have a date and a time, and we're all set up to have a first of its kind one-on-one conversation interview, if you will, where I'm going to get to pick his brain and learn as much as I possibly can about the algorithm, and of course share it with the world and report back to everyone about what I learned and what he said. So that's really exciting. That's going to be
Oh,
coming
it's
soon.
unreal.
I can't share too many details on it just yet, but very, very excited for that. And then in terms of what I think is coming in the future of Instagram, I think that especially with like the looming potential of things changing with TikTok and the algorithm shifting on Instagram and the way we consume content. I think that Instagram is not going anywhere. I think that Instagram is going to continue to grow. I think that there are, I think they call it like the rising billion or something like that, of people who are just getting internet access and are just getting smartphones for the first time. We in the Western world take these things for granted because we've had them for 20 years now, but there's a large chunk of the world that still doesn't really have internet, doesn't really have smartphone access. And so the ability to get on social media, this is a huge new group of content creators and content consumers who are going to be coming online within the next 10 years or so. And so I think the future of Instagram, the future of social media looks really bright from that perspective, from the business and marketing perspective. It looks really exciting. And then if I'm to say one thing specifically on Instagram that I think we can all be optimistic about, and this is something you mentioned earlier, the Instagram shop. I think Instagram sees what TikTok has done with the TikTok shop, and they're jealous. They're envious of, wow, TikTok has really had success with TikTok Shop, with TikTok Live Shopping, which is just QVC on TV, but now it's on
Right.
our phones. I think that's going to be coming to Instagram very soon. I think there's already some things that they're testing and working on, and some features that already exist that people just aren't tapping into when it comes to live selling. And so I think live selling specifically on Instagram is something that's going to be really effective in the next 3 to 5 years.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I mean, that is particularly relevant for our audience because we're selling products. We're sellers. So that's really cool. That's very inspiring, and I can't wait to see kind of what comes of this relationship with you and Instagram. Thank you for sharing and give us kind of like a sneak preview there. As we kind of wrap things up here, I want to know if you have any final words of advice for our listeners who are trying to grow on Instagram. Many of our listeners have not actually started their businesses yet. They're just kind of collecting the data, they're collecting the information, and then a lot of them will go on to take action. So they might not have started yet, or they're very new to this, or they've just been trying and things just haven't been working out for them. What advice do you wish you could give to your younger self when you were first starting out, or advice that you would give to these particular individuals?
Yeah, and this is a topic that, as you were talking, I knew what I was going to say. And I was actually, my brain was going off on a tangent of like, okay, where could I get this tattooed? Or how could I get this phrase tattooed on me? Because it's something I believe that strongly in. And then the phrase is just press post.
Yes.
There were so many great, tips and strategies and pieces of advice that we gave today. And I know you in your communities give so many great pieces of information and tips and strategies and techniques. And there is value in knowledge and there is value in education. But ultimately, that education, that knowledge is only valuable if it's put into practice. And so what I want to encourage people to do is to just press post. Like the ultimate way that you will improve your content and make better posts is not attend more trainings and watch more seminars and and listen to more podcasts and watch more YouTubes about making great content. It's by making 300 really bad posts. The way that you get comfortable on camera is you post a bunch of videos where you're really uncomfortable on camera. Ultimately, that is how you improve. That is how you will grow. And so I want to encourage everyone listening, like, yes, implement and try your best to soak up and apply everything you learned today. But if nothing else, take action, press post, create that video, create that account, do that research, whatever it is that you need to do. Stop thinking about it and just start taking messy action. And that's where progress will come from.
Boom. Man, I love that. Just press post. I feel like I totally agree. That needs to be put everywhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If anyone's listening to this, put this on a sticky note and put it on your monitor or something so you see it every day. It reminds me of a quote that I really love, that action is the foundational key of all success. And it's kind of very aligned with that. Like nothing happens without the action. So I love that advice. That is amazing advice, an amazing kind of note to end off on here. But last but not least, I want to know if someone wanted to reach out to you. I know a lot of our listeners already follow you, and a lot of them are probably about to follow you. But if they did want to reach out to you, where would be the best place for them to find you?
Yep. Brock 11 Johnson is my handle. It's my handle across all platforms. Pro tip, if you have the ability to get the same username across all platforms, do it. I'm Brock 11 Johnson across all, but of course, the best place to get connected is on Instagram. I'm very, very active in my DMs, and I have a community manager who helps me respond to and sort through all my DMs. So if you send me a message on Instagram, there's a pretty good likelihood that it's not only going to get read, but it's going to get responded to. So I'd love to get connected there and hear from anyone who listened to today's episode.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I will include the handles and links to your 2 podcasts in the show notes below. Brock, this has been an absolute masterclass on Instagram growth. That is why I love following you and I love being part of your community. Thank you so much for taking your time to be here and share your value and knowledge with our listeners. And hopefully we can have you back again on in the future.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you. And this was really fun.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Print on Demand Playbook podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us an honest review on whichever platform you're listening from. Thank you so much, and we'll talk to you very soon.